Tonight, we are grateful and honored to have with us the champion of the Filipino-American community, Congressman Ed Royce, the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Thank you very much, Chairman Royce. I also want to welcome the lovely wife of Chairman Ed Royce, Marie Royce. Thank you very much, Marie, for joining us tonight. And of course, our awardees, Assemblywoman Yang Kim. Assemblywoman Yang Kim was elected last year in the State Assembly. Last year, I almost introduced her like Assemblywoman Yang Kim. Tonight, I'm very proud to address her Assemblywoman Yang Kim. She represents the 65th Assembly District, which includes the communities of Buena Park, Cypress, Fullerton, La Palma, Stanton, and West Anaheim. She is the first Korean-American Republican woman ever serve in the California State Legislature and the first Asian American to represent the cities of the 65th Assembly District in Sacramento. Assemblywoman Yang Kim she supported the Assembly Bill 7 declaring October 25th as Larry Itliong Day that was authored by Assemblymember Rob Bonta, the first and the only Filipino-American ever elected in the state legislature. AB 7 passed the Senate unanimously and bipartisan support on June of this year, and after 8 days, the governor signed it. The bill encourages the public school system to teach about Larry Itliong and contributions to California. AB 7 properly honors the life and legacy of fighting for justice and opportunity and equity. For those of you who do not know Larry Itliong, he was a farm worker who worked very closely with Cesar Chavez. He was one of the greatest labor organizers and leaders in California history. Assemblywoman Yang Kim has been helping several small businesses, including Filipino-American small businesses. She has been assisting many individuals on various concerns. In fact, when she was in the office of Congressman Ed Royce, she and Linda Sarno helped formulate strategies with all of us on how to approach the land-grabbing problem in the Philippines. Assemblywoman Yang Kim, thank you very much for your continuous help. You indeed is part of this fight to get justice for the land-grabbing victims in the Philippines. Having known Yang for a long time, I could assure you that we could expect a lot of changes, a lot of positive changes in Sacramento. I also want to welcome the City of Cerritos, who's also an awardee tonight. Cerritos Mayor Carol Chen. Cerritos Council Member Mark Pulido, a proud Filipino. Mark Pulido was a mayor of Cerritos. Cerritos Council Member Jim Edwards. Cerritos Planning Commissioner Chong Vo. In the city of Cerritos, there are thousands of Filipino-American residents. When you go to the church in Cerritos, you would feel that you are in the Philippines because 90% of the churchgoers in Cerritos are Filipino-Americans. Also joining us tonight, Claremont Mayor Cory Kalaykay, a proud Filipino. Artesia Mayor Pro Tem Victor Manalo, a proud Filipino. the former mayor of Walnut, Council Member Tony Cartagena, a proud Filipino. Also, we would like to welcome Assembly Member Hadley. Welcome, Assembly Member. Assembly Member Hadley is the Assembly Member here in Torrance, and also where we live in Palos Verdes. Last year, when we honored one of the recipients of the Community Leadership Award, we introduced him as a proud Filipino-American county prosecutor. His dad, Judge Mel Ricana, attended last year to see him being honored. Tonight, I'm honored to call him Judge Julian Ricana of the Los Angeles Superior Court. I hope Joel Jacinto is still here. Oh, he left. Okay. Joel Jacinto is a newly appointed commissioner in the city of LA, as in the public works. And thank you to all our advertisers and sponsors. Wells Fargo Bank, MUFG Union Bank, Chase Bank, US Bank, East West Bank, HSBC, First General Bank, Verizon, Southern California Edison, State Farm Insurance. As for the future, we look forward to constantly work with you so we could continuously provide vital news to all our readers. Thank you to all of you for reaching out to the Filipino Americans, which validates that our community is an important community to all of you. We have planned an exciting program for tonight. We would be including the community panel discussion in order to learn more on how to do business with the banks. Having an ample knowledge could surely empower more Filipino-American businesses. During the discussion, questions from the well-known community leaders about small business contracting, access to capital, among others, will be answered by the well-respected and well-versed representatives from the banks. I would like also to welcome the representatives for Chase Bank, Jose Carrera. Welcome. Wells Fargo, Marcia Chu. From Union Bank, Patty Asai. From US Bank, Matt Gambina. This is a chance for the Filipino-American community to know the process of getting contracts with large corporations. Let us not do the old way of doing business. We register a name, we get an office, then we get the phone lines, then wait for the phone to ring. And we use our own capital to operate our own businesses. When the small business when we start getting contracts, the next challenge is how to finance the operation. Most of the common mistake of small businesses is they go to the banks to get business loan and credit lines when we need it tomorrow. But the best way of getting credit lines is when you do not need it. Why? That is when the banks go after you. That you have so much money in the bank, you have great credit scores and great cash flow. Many of you would like to get contracts from the banks. Either become a prime contractor or subcontractor and learn how to do business with these banks. I'm sure everyone wants to get business from the banks. Let us then make this evening not only to celebrate the 21st anniversary by honoring our awardees, but let us also make this evening a night to learn key information to expand our businesses. America celebrates every success of every single business in America. America wants every business to become successful. Let me now share with you a success story of a Filipino-American-owned business. The Twin Eagles Griller, owned by Dante and Fanny Cantal. Could you please stand, please? Yeah. You know, I'm proud to say that they live in the district of Chairman Ed Royce. The offices of the Twin Eagles is based in Cerritos. They started very small. Today, they employ 130 employees with revenues of $30 million. So I would like to let the banks know how many of you would like to get that business. Their business has grown because of opportunities in America, because we have economic opportunities in America. Like the Cantals, we hope that in the Philippines, every single person could be given an opportunity so that Filipinos could help boost the Philippine economy as well. I totally agree with Chairman Ed Royce. He mentioned last year during the 20th anniversary event that Philippine economic opportunity should be for all, not for the few. If everyone could enjoy the economic opportunity in the Philippines, all could be on the road to success. Land grabbing, which is a widespread problem in the Philippines, could be highly considered as part of the corruption. It should be minimized, if not completely stopped. Thank you very much, Congressman Ed Royce, for spearheading the actions to help the powerless and the voiceless land-grabbing victims against the abusive land grabbers in the Philippines. Mother Teresa said, "You could not do everything, but you could do something." And yes, we could resolve land grabbing in the Philippines with the continuous help of the champion of the Filipinos, Congressman Ed Royce. He is making sure that all Americans are all safe, making sure that the world is safe as well. Almost every day, we see Congressman Ed Royce in the news channels talking about how to make the world a safer place. We see him on CNN, MSNBC, Fox, name it. He's there every day to make sure that the world is safe. And the Americans, every single American is safe. Congressman Royce is doing great jobs also for the Filipinos. As soon as he became the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, the Filipino became one of his top agenda. Thank you very much, Chairman Ed Royce. Since the Philippine government has been in denial that the land grabbing exists in the Philippines, we showed the evidences to the chairman. Chairman Royce quickly went to the Filipino-American community and started asking about land grabbing and found out that it is a widespread problem. The famous economist Hernando de Soto reported to Chairman Royce that the Philippines has a very big potential to grow, but what hinders the growth of the Philippines is the corruption because of failure to enforce the rule of law and respect of property rights. The Philippine grants comes from the American taxpayers. The Philippines already received $500 million, $500 million of grants. The grants that came from the U.S. to the Philippines has guidelines such as rule of law, property rights, government accountability, and good governance. If the Philippines would not follow the guidelines, then the U.S. should give conditions to the grants of the Philippines, because that would become a wasteful spending of American taxpayers. This year, Congressman Ed Royce asked the Millennium Challenge Corporation, how could we put conditions, or how could the U.S. Congress put conditions to the next compact to the Philippines, the next funding to the Philippines? And the Millennium Challenge Corporation Chief Executive Officer, Ms. Hyde, responded, and I quote, that if the land rights and tenure emerge as a constraint to economic growth, MCC will give careful consideration to intervention that address this issue. Chairman Royce, you are the champion. You have been giving voice to the voiceless and powerless, the oppressed, the victims of land grabbing in the Philippines. You want to empower the oppressed victims to reclaim their stolen lands from the land grabbers. Thank you very much, Congressman Ed Royce. Yesterday was a historic moment for the Filipino Americans, since we had the Foreign Affairs Congressional hearing on property rights in Southeast Asia in Cal Poly Pomona, which was led by Chairman Ed Royce and Chairman of the Subcommittee on Asia and Pacific, Matt Salmon. Chairman Royce, thank you for leading yesterday's congressional hearing together with Chairman Salmon, where hundreds of Asian, including Filipino Americans, attended and now hopeful for the reforms in the Philippines. Thank you for emphasizing the hearing, in the hearing, the importance of protecting of property rights, since they are essential to economic stability, improvements of lives of Filipinos and Cambodians and other Asians. The witnesses in the hearing were the USAID, the U.S. Department of State, the lawyer who's representing the Cambodian victims before the International Criminal Court in Hague, Faith Bautista, CEO of the National Asian American Coalition, and Z. Contreras, litigant of the Philippine property dispute, and me, represented Southern California Filipino American community. Faith and Z, please stand to be recognized. You could read our testimonials on page 2 and 3 of the current issue of the newspaper. Yesterday, I testified that I am a land-grabbing victim who has been landlocked by a well-connected and powerful general. I shared that my family has, as well as more than 700 land parcel owners, could not enter our properties for many years now because the retired military general has been blocking the access road. I also cited that some victims who are suffering because of land grabbers. Mr. Pablo left the Philippines because land grabbers wanted to kill him. Mr. Cabrillos has been trapped in a corrupt court system. It has been 15 years of no progress on his fight for his land. Mrs. Belosos stated that the land grabbers burned her house with the intention of killing her. And the family in Cebu did not get any protection and help from the police against military officers who built fences around their property. I also pointed out that the general has a 2-story house, gates and fences with security personnel blocking the access road, does not have land in Antipolo as per the assessor and the mayor. and does not have a building permit as per the Antipolo City Hall. I also said I've given documents to some government agencies, but none of the agencies have given action to stop the general from blocking the access road. This is lack of government accountability, no rule of law, no respect of property rights. I also mentioned in the hearing how Philippine laws in the how laws in the Philippines are not being adhered. For example, the general is a chairman of a savings and loan in the Philippines. The central bank is the regulator. Under the Republic Act number 8791, it states that all directors of a supervised institution should possess honesty and integrity. But in my case, the Central Bank of the Philippines denied my request to open an inquiry to the general to check on his integrity. The Philippine Republic Act number 6713 also requires public officials and employees to respond in 15 days to any communication sent by the public. Disappointingly, numerous government agencies have disregarded the Republic Act number 6713. Clearly, the general has the power to stop Philippine laws for being enforced. President Aquino's Daang Matuwid, the Straight Path, anti-corruption initiative in the Philippines is a great way to show to the world that the Philippines is no longer the sick man of Asia, but it is not completely being adhered to nor totally being implemented by some national government agencies. I have reminded several government agencies of his Daang Matuwid anti-corruption initiative, but it has been neglected. The national and local government agencies neglect the rule of law, and their lack of transparency, good governance, good accountability are apparent derailing President Aquino's anti-corruption initiative. Many in the Philippines wants him, even his appointees, wants him to fail. You know, I thought before his appointees would be there to protect him, but many of his government appointees wants him to fail. Therefore, I hope that through President Aquino's continuous leadership of his Daang Matuwid Straight Path, that he could fully enforce in order to assist land-grabbing victims. And under the leadership of Chairman Ed Royce, I am optimistic this would happen. U.S. wants the Philippines to be very successful and one day become the next true tiger of Asia, as envisioned by President Aquino. But it could only happen if the rule of law, property rights, transparency, good governance, and government accountability could be fully implemented and truly enforced. Given all the facts, President Aquino, will his administration still wait for weeks to enforce the law, or should it be immediately, meaning in few days? Yesterday, August 21, was the 32nd martyrdom of Ninoy Aquino, the late father of President Aquino. Ninoy Aquino is the former senator of the Philippines. Looking back at the time of Ninoy Aquino was fighting for the restoration of democracy in the Philippines. He commented, "Tama na, sobra na. Enough of the abuses." And when the Filipinos lost Ninoy Aquino 32 years ago, the response of the Filipinos was tuloy, and still the response of Filipinos all over the world is tuloy ang laban, which means we will continue the fight. In one of the speeches of President Aquino, he said, "Walang maloloko kung walang magpapaloko," meaning no one would be fooled if you do not allow yourself to be fooled. In our case, as well as the other land-grabbing victims, we have tried not to be fooled by the Philippine government agencies. But we could not do much of the Philippine government agencies' neglect of the rule of law and protection of property rights because of the lack of transparency, good governance, and government accountability. Chairman Royce, other members of the United States Congress are assisting in resolving the land grabbing problems in the Philippines. Congressman Ted Lieu sent a letter to the CEO of the Millennium Challenge that the U.S. grants to the Philippines comes from the American taxpayers and has guidelines, rule of law, property rights. Therefore, these guidelines needs to be followed. On September 2013, a letter went to President Obama that was signed by Chairman Ed Royce and Democrat Ranking Member Engel and the 100 bipartisan members of the United States Congress, letting President Obama know that land grabbing occurs in the Philippines, that almost $500 million grants to the Philippines comes from all of you, from the American taxpayers. The rule of law in the Philippines must be enforced and property rights must be respected. Also, the U.S. Department is watching the human rights violation in the Philippines. They have considered land grabbing in their agenda. On July 15, 2015, the Tom Lantos Human Rights Commission held a United States congressional staff briefing on human rights violation by the security forces in the Philippines. The State Department's 2014 Human Rights reported a week of overburdened justice system in the Philippines, noting poor cooperation between police, investigators, and a meager record of prosecution, and lengthy procedural delays and widespread official corruption and abuse of power in the Philippines. As victims of land grabbing, our constitutional rights and human rights are being violated because of the inaction of some Philippine government agencies, in particular by disregarding requests of public documents. The land grabbing victims are fearful of the land grabbers because they are very, very violent. The message of America to the land grabbers: do not hurt any Americans. Filipino Americans are Americans. You could run, but you could not hide. America will find you. Many Filipino American community leaders have expressed that resolving land grabbing problem would better the Philippine economy. And the only Filipinos who would be upset the only Filipinos who would be upset once land grabbing problem is resolved would be the land grabbers and their supporters. Many commented that everyone should have access to economic opportunities, and the victims who are deprived of economic opportunities should be given justice so they could enjoy their lands and be part of furthering the Philippine economy. To the land grabbers in the Philippines, we should say, stop terrorizing the landowners so they could have economic opportunities. During the visit of Pope Francis to the Philippines, he said, and I quote the Pope, "It is amazing that a nation of 100 million people, just tiny few, can own and control over 70% of the wealth, land, property, and means of production. They so few have such power and cause poverty and human abuses over so many." The Philippine Consul General, Leo Herrera, who's also very helpful to all of us, said, land grabbing in the Philippines needs to be resolved, and he agrees that when the land grabbing is stopped, the Philippine economy would be bigger. The Philippines should stop turning blind to the reality that land grabbing is a big problem and has been there for many generations. They should realized that existence of more land grabbing in the Philippines would implicate higher credit risk. So it would be harder for them to borrow from the international market, which means World Bank and IMF. And it would be harder for them to attract foreign investors in the Philippines. With the help and profound leadership of Chairman Ed Royce and the members of the Foreign Affairs Committee, United States Congress, USAID, State Department, and the Millennium Challenge, we could hope to see the rule of law and protection of property rights could be fully implemented and enforced in the Philippines. Should this happen, we could expect better lives so many Filipinos and Filipino Americans could benefit from it as well. To all of you who make the Filipino American community a better place to live and work, for all of for all of you who help the Filipino Americans now and the generations to come, thank you. And may God bless us all. May God bless the Philippines. May God bless America. Thank you very much. Maraming salamat po.